10,000 children. Burned. One city. One ritual. One god. For centuries, the people of Carthage willingly gave their children to the fire. Not in hatred, but in worship. Imagine a city so powerful, it rivaled Rome. A city of gold, ships, and stone temples. Its name was Carthage. For centuries, it ruled the seas, traded with empires, and built monuments that touched the sky. But behind its walls, hidden beneath its glory, was a secret so dark that even its enemies struggled to believe it. At the heart of this city stood a temple. Not a place of peace or prayer, but of fire. Here, children were sacrificed to a god with a bronze face and outstretched arms. Their tiny bodies placed into the furnace. Burned alive. Not one. Not 10. But thousands. Some say over 10,000 children were killed not by war or disease, but by the hands of their own people. And the parents? They watched. Some believed it was an honor. A sacred offering. A gift to the gods for rain, for crops, for protection. This is not a myth. Not a legend. This is history. And what you're about to hear is one of the darkest, most disturbing truths ever uncovered by archaeology, and one that still sparks debate to this day. The truth behind Carthage. The cult of Moloch. And the children they burned. Before it became a name whispered in fear, Carthage was a marvel. A beacon of trade, culture, and unmatched power. Founded by the Phoenicians around 800 BC, it quickly rose to dominate the Western Mediterranean. Its harbors bustled with ships. Ivory, gold, spices, textiles, everything passed through Carthage. Its merchants were rich, its streets clean, its politics complex. To outsiders, it was the very image of a perfect city. But its wealth wasn't just in gold. Carthage was rich in religion. In rituals. In gods. At the center of their world was a divine pair, Baal, Hammon and Tanit. To please them was to secure prosperity. To anger them was to risk destruction. So the people prayed. They built temples, held festivals, and followed the old ways. But when prayer wasn't enough, they gave more. They gave what they feared to lose the most. Not all temples were made for prayer. In Carthage, there was a sacred space known as the Tophet, a large open-air sanctuary surrounded by stone markers and altars. And this is where the sacrifices took place. At its center stood a towering statue of Baal Hammon, bronze, with outstretched arms. Below, a furnace burned day and night. Flames hungry for flesh. When the offering was ready, priests would place the child, sometimes just months old, into the hands of the idol. Then, they tilted forward. And the child fell into the fire. Witnesses wrote of drums pounding, flutes screaming, and choirs singing to drown out the cries. So the mothers wouldn't hear. So the fathers wouldn't run. Some parents were forced. Others came willingly, believing it was the only way to save their family, their crops, their future. Archaeologists have found urns filled with tiny bones, burned, blackened, broken. This was not symbolic. This was real. And Carthage believed. The greater the sacrifice, the greater the reward. To us, it's unthinkable. To them, it was devotion. The people of Carthage lived in a world ruled by gods. Gods who controlled the rain, the harvest, the fate of cities. And when disaster struck, when droughts came, when armies marched, the gods demanded more. They believed that giving up what you loved most would prove your loyalty. And what is more precious than your own child? It wasn't madness. It was desperation. They thought, better to lose one than to lose everything. Priests preached that the gods would reward such sacrifice with abundance. Rain for the fields. Safety from war. Favor from the heavens. And for many, it worked. Or so they believed. Because when crops returned, or a battle was won, the people thanked the gods. Not science. Not chance. But the ashes of the innocent. And so, the cycle continued. Fire. death, salvation. Again and again. To question it was to question everything. And most didn't dare. In the late 20th century, archaeologists uncovered something beneath the ruins of Carthage. It wasn't treasure. It wasn't weapons. It was urns. Thousands of them. Neatly arranged. Buried with care. Each one containing the charred remains of a child. Bones small, brittle, scorched. Some were infants. Others, barely toddlers. Alongside them were tiny animal bones of lambs, doves, also burned. Offerings. Substitutes. But never enough. The site was known as a Tophet, a sacred place of burial or sacrifice. To some, it was just a cemetery. To others, a killing ground. The inscriptions found nearby spoke of devotion, of blessings, of gods rewarded. But not all scholars agree. Some argue these children died naturally from disease or famine and were simply cremated in ritual. Others say that's impossible. The numbers are too high. The bones too broken. The fire too intense. The debate rages to this day. Was Carthage truly a child-killing cult? Or did history written by its enemies twist the truth? Much of what we know about Carthage comes from their enemies, the Romans. After 3 brutal wars, the Punic Wars, Rome finally destroyed Carthage in 146 BC. They burned the city to the ground, killed or enslaved its people, and erased it from the map. Then, they wrote the history. Roman authors like Diodorus, Plutarch, and Tertullian painted Carthage as savage, godless, monstrous. A place where children burned and demons smiled. But Rome had a reason to lie. By turning Carthage into a horror story, Rome justified its conquest. They weren't conquerors, they were saviors. They didn't burn a city, they ended barbarism. And people believed it. For centuries, the image of child sacrifice clung to Carthage like smoke. But modern archaeology complicates that story. Were they monsters? Or victims of history's most effective smear campaign? We may never know the full truth. But one thing is certain. The silence of the dead echoes louder than the words of the victors. The child sacrifices in Carthage weren't a single event. They lasted for centuries. Generation after generation. Families kept bringing their children to the flames. Not in secret. Not in shame. But as part of society. As something sacred. How could this continue? Because it wasn't seen as evil. It was seen as necessary. The priests were powerful. The temples were rich. And the fear of the gods unshakable. To question the ritual was to question the entire world. And most people won't do that. Not then. Not now. Even when they watched their neighbors walk up the hill with a baby in their arms. Even when the drums began. Even when the smoke rose. They told themselves, this is right. This is what must be done. This is what the gods demand. And so, it continued. In 146 BC, Rome returned. They didn't come to negotiate. They came to erase. For 17 days, Carthage burned. Its temples. Its streets. Its people. The gods of Carthage. Silent. The priests. Dead. The rituals. Ended. All that remained was smoke. And ash. And bones buried in the earth. For centuries, the land stayed quiet. No songs. No prayers. Just dust. And when archaeologists dug it up, they found the truth. Or at least, pieces of it. Tiny bones. Charred urns. Thousands of names carved into stone. And one question carved into time. How could they do this? And perhaps a darker one. Could we ever do the same?